The recording is started. This is the Dundee Township Trustees special meeting, Monday, October 26, 2020 at 4 p.m. This meeting of the Dundee Township Board of Trustees will be held via telephone conference call in accordance with the Illinois Governor's executive orders and disaster declarations regarding the COVID-19 pandemic. The general public had the opportunity to receive access to this meeting by requesting via email or telephone by today at 12 p.m. To the Dundee Township Supervisor Trish Gleese at the telephone number or the email address. Governor Pritzker signed Senate Bill 2135 into law, which addresses electronic meetings during time periods when the governor has issued a disaster declaration like the situation we are in now. Pursuant to this new law, the Dundee Township Board of Trustees meeting will be conducted via audio and video conference without a physically present quorum of the Dundee Township Board of Trustees. Because of the disaster declaration related with COVID-19 public health concerns affecting the township. Pursuant to this new law, I, Patricia Trish Gleese, Dundee Township Supervisor, have determined that an in-person meeting at the township building with all participants is not practical nor prudent because of this disaster. Township officials, legal counsel, and the township administrator will not be physically present at the township building due to this disaster. The meeting will also be audio and video recorded and made available to the public as provided by law, and all votes will be by a roll call. With that, Sue, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Want the roll call first?
Oh, I'm sorry, roll call first.
Okay. Physically present, no one other than the office manager. Attending remotely, Supervisor Gleese.
Here.
Trustee Harney.
Here.
Trustee Ahrens.
Here.
Trustee Johnson.
Here.
Trustee Schaefer. Absent. Okay.
Seeing that we have a quorum, we will continue. Trustee Harney, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. I am now looking for a first and a second motion to approve or amend the agenda as presented.
So moved. Harney.
I have a first from Trustee Harney. Do I have a second?
Second from Johnson.
I have a second from Trustee Johnson. Do we have any discussion? Seeing no discussion, I will call a roll call. Trustee Johnson? For approving the agenda.
Yes.
Trustee Harney?
Yes.
Trustee Ahrens?
Yes.
Okay, Supervisor Gleese, yes. Seeing that there were 4 yeses, the agenda is approved. We will go to public comments. Public questions will be limited to 3 minutes per person. We do have 1 person on the phone. We will start with that person. Mr. Kemp, do you have a comment? Mr. Kemp, you're unmuted. Do you have a comment? Mr. Kemp, you're unmuted. Do you have a comment? Seeing that there are no comments, I am going to close the public comments section. And I'm going to move on to new business. It's the review and approve the intergovernmental recipient agreement for the coronavirus relief funds between the County of Kane and Dundee Township that governs the disbursement of the coronavirus relief funds by King County to Dundee Township. Everybody received a copy of the IGA. It looks standard wording. I'm not going to go through the whereases or anything like that. Essentially, the signature page, or my signature, is that we will be using the CFR funds to pay for our eligible expenses associated with past COVID purchases. And there was also a future section that went to December 31st. With what our expected costs were. That in that document, I'm trying to find the page. You'll see on page, I don't know. It started on the summary page. Kane County required me to provide all expenses, as I said, up until from March 1st to August 31st, and then expected September 1st through December 31st. Do you have any questions?
Should we get a motion first, Madam Chair?
I'm sorry, I thought I had a motion. May I have a motion to, I'm looking for a motion to approve the IGA between Kane County and Dundee Township.
Aaron, so be it.
I have a first. Do I have a second?
Harney, second.
I have trustee Harney as a second. Now I'll open up to discussion. Does anybody have any questions?
Well, yeah, this is George. Let's
George.
review understanding for a second, because we haven't talked about this much. My understanding is that it's a reimbursement program. Is that correct? We spend the money. We submit expenses like an expense account. We are reimbursed for those amounts up to limits. Is that correct?
No. So the way it was set up is that it went the first section, March 1st through August 31st. I had to provide all expenses associated with COVID. And then from September 1st to December 31st, I had to use an estimation of what we thought. So the money is there to, they have to allocate it, and they're providing us a percentage per person per capita, if that makes sense. So it has to be expended to, it has to be given to us, and we then have to use it for COVID purposes, as we have shown in pages, it's 18 through like 29.
I'm not sure that addresses the question.
Okay.
We do not have the money. We submit an expense report, so to speak, if you can use those.
Okay.
And we are reimbursed for the money.
Yeah. So for March 1st through August 31st, we already spent that money.
Correct.
And then the September 1st through December 31st, because that's an estimation, we'll have to re-expense what our product during that time period.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I've got lots of questions. Anybody else have any?
Go right ahead.
Go ahead, George.
Did you say go ahead?
Yep. What's your questions?
In the text of the agreement, it states that budgeted expenses are not eligible, previously budgeted expenses.
Correct.
And I notice we have substantial amount of salaries listed as expenses. That seems to be a conflict.
So I asked that question, and since That's why they're at 50%. For the supervisor, township, cemetery manager, cemetery staff, and office manager, due to the fact that they had overtime that was not budgeted due to, each of us, due to the work associated with, in accordance with COVID. It was known as emergency assistance, which we did not, emergency management assistance, which we did not have as a, we don't have that as part of our salary line.
All right, then going forward from here through the end of the year, the
Go ahead.
50% factor on salaries is an estimate of overtime?
That is correct. From
Is that
September 1st, right?
Estimate of overtime?
Yes, that's an estimate of overtime from September 1st to December 31st. Whether we use it on the salaries, I think we're going to use it on the cemetery, but I don't know about the other portions.
Well,
But
I don't know that the supervisor is eligible for overtime.
well, so the supervisor is not, but the supervisor listed as the emergency management person. That's how they told me to fill it out. I agree with you. I do not get overtime. So I don't know how that, that is just how they had me fill out the expense reports.
So who would receive this?
It would go, if the money was received, it would probably go back into the budget. Because the supervisor can't get any more money.
That's
as
correct.
an elected official. My belief on this is that when this is the same expense form that goes to all of the villages, and a village manager or a village administrator would be doing my role, and they could get expenses, and the county just doesn't understand supervisors.
Now, just excuse me, continuing that line of thought, say the cemetery manager, if he has accrued 50% of his compensation in overtime through the present from March, he's already been paid. The reimbursement would go back in the general fund then.
That is correct. All this reimbursement goes back to the general fund. It doesn't go directly to the staff.
Seems like it's sort of like the same thing as if we had bought PPE or masks or sanitizer or whatever thing. We don't pay the vendor again because that's already been paid. We already paid the vendor. So we've already paid the staff. And so the money that comes in from this act goes back into probably the general fund, not even is it going to the payroll or the payroll fund, or how does that, or what, does that make any difference?
I don't think it makes any difference since it's the general fund. Everything gets funded out of the general fund. So it would just go back to the general fund. And the same thing when you get into the commodities, everything that we paid, we've already paid for everything. But when you get to, September 1st through December 31st, everything's it's an estimate. We're estimating this is what's going to happen. And so I don't have a whole lot of answer on this. But if you look at what we're estimating, we're figuring another 12 grand for PPE. This is for the future, up September 1st through December 30th. We're 2,200 for the food pantry, 250,000 for general and emergency assistance payments. And those are all estimates, because we can tell you, what the uptick is, And then, the monthly sanitation, the extra sanitation costs, once again, those are estimates. If we had, if we unfortunately had an outbreak, that would, we probably would have more sanitation costs.
Well, I think what you're saying is too, that if I'm understanding you right, the money would go back to the individual fund, like for a cemetery, if they bought sanitizer or whatever, that money would go back to the cemetery general fund. If the township did it, it would go back to them. The assessor would go back to their fund somehow.
Right. And then the same with, the road district.
Right.
All right, from March to the present, 50% overtime factors. Are we able to document that with credibility?
Well, we're going to have to. We're going to have to document it before the payroll. We're going to have to document it before they give us the payroll numbers. Correct. The commodities, they already have all of the commodities. They have all of the salary structures for the groups. And then I'm guessing December 31st, they're going to, unless they give us the money now, but they're going, we're going to have to continue to give them expense reports.
I just had a computer crash here. I'm trying to get the
I'm sorry.
My antivirus decided to do a restart for me on the middle here.
Okay. All right, George, while you're doing that, Sue, do you have any questions?
No, I've been looking at attachment A, and that has gone through in detail the eligible expenses. So I don't particularly care about the path once it gets into the township. It seems to me it has to go into the general fund as income, and I don't know how you guys are going to figure that out, but I don't think it'll go back to like the cemetery. The road district will go back to the road district.
Right.
The township goes back to the general fund, the town fund, and then we're still bound by the budget. So there probably will be some budget transfers to cover the increased costs. So I think that sounds like the pathway that's going to work. So which is fine with me. I hate that accounting.
I know.
Just figure it out and do it.
And under attachment A, the reason for the 250,000 is expenses for quarantine individuals. That would include, paying for housing, electric, gas, stuff that because they've quarantined. So that's where that was the number per this, they took our 70,000 people, and that's where they came, we came up with our 250,000. Granted, if 70,000 people came and asked us, what would they get? 10, 15? If the whole township came, I don't know. First of all, they still have to follow all of the GA guidelines, but what would we give everybody? $2? So this is really to help those people who really need it.
Oh, so people can come to us if they're under quarantine and they need help. Oh, that's really good to know.
They've been able to come to us all along, if they're under quarantine. That's why the food pantry has had such an uptick. But if they've been under quarantine and they couldn't work, or their business has, take it right now, we're back in mitigation and they've been laid off, and they have bills. Now there's an upside to that because no one can be evicted, and gas and electric in theory can't be turned off along with water, but they can still incur like fines and fees. So
okay.
Okay. Are you back up, George?
Yeah, I am. I'm looking at it again now.
Okay.
That really raised my eyebrows when I saw that 250,000, but
Right.
yeah, I suppose if everyone in the township is eligible for, say, rent payments,
Mm-hmm.
that could really cascade, couldn't it?
It could really cascade, right?
And we have had several today, just as an example, had one gentleman who was off work because of COVID and has a large electric bill where, excuse me, ComEd has shut the power off. Another gentleman can't pay rent who called in today because of being laid off and with his unemployment can't afford his rent.
So we are going to see a lot of it. The other expenses that kind of that 250,000 covers, George, would be any of the homeless population, the other, well, this wouldn't be part of the 250. This would be out of the salaries. Is expenses paid for if we had to close the township down and send everybody home because of a COVID exposure. If it was in a precaution or in a, after the fact type thing. So those would be kind of the things that, administratively we would have to deal with and have had to deal with in the past.
People who can't keep up with their mortgage, for example, is that eligible expense?
Yes, that would be if
Wow.
they wait, but George, they'd have to first of all qualify for GA to begin with.
Right.
EA.
Yeah.
EA or GA they have to qualify for.
They have to qualify for GA.
Oh, well, that
They have-
eliminates
I'm
almost
sorry.
everybody.
No, they have to follow, I have to follow the GA standards, the GA
Okay.
qualifications. So where in the past, your mortgage would not be covered
Mhm.
if you can prove because of COVID, you've lost your job, you've done then it would be covered. So there's extraordinary,
Okay.
but what you couldn't do is you can't be working, none of you guys could come into the township. Well, okay, Bob couldn't come into the township and say, see, I just thought about, oh, you're not working, but oh, you're
Hey,
retired.
we are working.
But-
We're just not getting paid for it. We're retired.
Yeah, you're retired, right? But like somebody like Bob couldn't come into the township and have a paycheck and then say, hey, I want this money because, I mean, there's got to be a need.
Okay, is there, I guess I'll call it a pre-approval mechanism? Say we pay an expense for somebody. Is it possible the county could come back and say, well, that's not eligible, and then we'd be stuck for it?
No. Once we get the money, and it goes, the 250, which is specifically calls out, and the money for the food pantry, that would specifically go right back to GA. And so no, because we have expenses for everything. We keep for all GA, we keep all records. So that's not a concern.
Well, I'm not clear on something then. We're not going to get this money, are we?
We're
not going to
getting
give us
them.
200.
Well, the 250 is what we've asked for. So I am expecting the 250. That's a per capita request. Yes. Yes. So we will be getting the money from March 1st through August 31st because we've already expensed
We
it.
get a deposit for one of our.
Well, yeah, for that I would assume we get, I don't know how the county pays us, they give us a check or whatever.
I understood this program then. I thought it was an expense program where we submitted expenses.
No, because no. So one we as a township have already expended all of, this expenses, number one. Number two, this is money that is federal money that went to the state, and the state gave it to the counties to disperse to each of the counties, municipalities, and townships. And it was meant to be done on a per capita basis. Unfortunately, King County may or may not have waited, they were trying, I don't know if they were playing beat the clock or they were trying to wait on it, but they waited longer than other counties. And
there was a controversy on the county board about it.
Yeah, so I don't want to get into that. So we already had expensed from March 1st to August 31st, we had already expensed out money that was not in the budget, that we had not budgeted for.
Correct.
And then we've got the September 1st through December 30th, which we also did not expense for, but we're still the ticker tape's running on that.
So my question is, and I want to verify it one more time, we will receive a deposit for one of our accounts for that 250,000. We'll have it in the bank.
Yes, that's the theory.
Wow.
And it can only be used for GA, George. So it's really going to go into the GA fund. It'll be used for GAEA.
What happens if it's not all used by the end of the year?
So that's what the township supervisors had stated, is that we would not expend, especially our EA and GA payments for shelter utilities, late fines, homelessness, etc. We would not expend all this money by the end of December. We would probably be going into the first and second quarter of the actual first and second quarter of 2021. That's a known factor. And now, quite honestly, George, the way we're going, we could probably blow through this right away. We don't know when the evictions are going to start and when the gas and electric bills are going to start to really uptick. I mean, that's the game we don't know. So yes, could we conceivably go through this by December 30th? Sure. But realistically, we're probably gonna, we'll still have this in first quarter into 2021.
Which is not a problem, because
Right.
then we'll just help people then, right?
Right, exactly. When the people need the help, right? This 250,000 for the GAEA payments can only be used for GAEA, so we would hold it. If
It can't be clawed back.
Right, and let's say that ComEd and NICOR start shutting off in March. That's when we would probably expend most of this money.
Have you been able to help the people who have come already? I know Katie
Yes.
said that there were like
Yeah.
10 people the other day and with
Yeah.
huge electric bills
Right.
that were being shut off.
Yeah, so we are helping people as we can. Right now we're covering, primarily late fees, so that they get out from underneath them. We have had people come in excess of $3,000 to $5,000 in electric bills. And, there are
$1,000?
Mm-hmm.
I ain't seen one of them in my life.
Well, so some of these are multiple months, Richard, where they haven't been able to pay their electric bill. So it adds, it keeps adding month to month. Some of those are going to be very difficult since we don't have partners, St. Vincent de Paul, Two Rivers, they're, Salvation Army, they don't have the monies to partner with us like they used to. So I don't have specific answers to that.
Well, I don't see a downside to this. This sounds like we can do a lot of good work with it.
I agree
Right.
with that. I do agree with that.
Yeah. As far as, I talked to, when it comes to future expenses, the reason some of this I had to put, a line in the sand. We figured what we had used in PPE to disinfect clean areas, the masks, the gloves, the hand sanitizers, the wipes, we figured, another 12,000 is what we would expend. And I mean, the masks are what are really expensive. So, we try to buy those in as much bulk as possible to get, the price breaks.
That a girl. I like that bulk.
Yeah. The things that we struggle with is hand sanitizers and wipes. The nice thing is I have a person who works at Costco. So when Costco gets in their hand sanitizer or the wipes, he gives me a call and I go and purchase as much as they'll allow me to purchase.
Okay. I hope you're stocked up on toilet paper too, right?
We're not even going to start about the toilet paper.
I'm sorry. I just had to say that.
Yeah. But we're struggling with toilet paper. I don't think we have as much of a problem as paper towels. I've got the guys buying shop towels right now. I told them, you can get those. They're made of relatively the same product, and use those to help with some of the cleaning. Cut them up into fours. Okay, George, any other questions?
I'm trying to think this through. It seems like we're going to need, well, first of all, there's a lot of opportunity for fraud, not by us, but by applicants. Such a big pot of money sitting around. There's going to be a need for a lot of extra record keeping, investigation.
Well, no, so as general and emergency assistance is handled, the same rigors will be, as if it wasn't COVID. So they're, they have to provide the same documentation. They have to provide the same information. And I'm not gonna, I don't want to go into that information, George. That is, subject to general, privacy laws. But they will be going through the same rigors that we would normally make them go through.
Okay.
And the only other thing that other townships have done, I should say other supervisors have done, is they have lessened their EAGA call from 18 months to 12 months. I do not want to do that. I want to keep us at 18 months because that will help us help the most, the greatest amount of people.
I didn't follow that. 18 months is what?
You can only ask for emergency assistance every 18 months.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And I do not want to change that.
So they come for one helping, they can't come back right away.
Correct. 18 months later. And they,
any small business implications to this at all?
We cannot help. We cannot help any small businesses. That is not in our going to Dylan's rule. That businesses are not the purview of the township. That is the responsibility of the municipalities because they're the ones who collect sales tax, liquor tax, gaming tax, etc.
Okay, that's all the questions I have.
Okay.
I warned you.
No, that's fine. I was ready for it. The rest of it is boilerplate. The IGA is just boilerplate. Richard, any questions?
Oh,
one more question.
Sure.
Have you run this by either Jarrett Sanchez or Chris Caius just to see if they not approve, that's not the right word, but sanction what we're doing? Because I know Jarrett was probably the head of the committee that finally got this money broken loose.
Yeah,
And,
so this IGA is the exact same IGA all townships and municipalities receive. This was written by the King County State's Attorney's Office. So everybody got exactly the same thing. The different, that's why I said that portion's a boilerplate. The difference would be what we're asking money for, and we can only ask money for what we legally can ask money for. What our reimbursements are.
so the answer is no, we haven't
They-
shown this.
Well, they've seen it because they sit on that board meeting. I mean,
Well, they've seen the
this,
offer. They haven't seen our financials.
Why
No,
would they
we've
need
talked-
to, George?
yeah,
Huh?
they can't. That would be a separation of government.
I would, and my question, why would we want them to do that anyway? I don't understand
Just
that.
to make sure that we're meeting the intent of what they devised.
But that's being done.
We haven't
But
done it. The
that's-
answer is no, we haven't. So, we can leave
Yeah.
it there.
Yeah, no, I have not, and we met the requirements by the King County State's Attorney's Office. And they're the ones who are running the program now.
Okay. I'm done.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, seeing that there is no more discussion, I'm going to call for a roll call. Bob, are you ready?
Oh, okay. Trustee Harney,
Yes,
trustee Aaron's,
Yes,
trustee Johnson,
Yes,
supervisor Glees.
Yes, seeing that that's 4 yeses, I will go ahead and sign the IGA. And we will get it to them. We're allowed to email it to them, so we will get it to them today or tomorrow at the latest. Okay.
Okay.
With that, hold on. I am looking for a motion to adjourn.
so moved.
so moved, John.
George can do it.
I have trustee Johnson for first, trustee Harney for second. Is that correct?
Okay,
Okay. Trustee, this is now a yay or nay to adjourn. Oh, I'm sorry. Do we have any discussion? Okay. Seeing there's no discussion, trustee Aaron's, yay or nay to adjourn?
yay.
Trustee Harney?
yes, or yay.
Yeah, that's fine. Trustee Johnson?
Yes.
And Supervisor Glees is an aye. With that, I appreciate your time. We will get this document completed. Please stay safe. King County is in mitigation. Do not go out, do not pass go, do not collect $200, and always wear a mask. I am going to stop the recording.